Hello and welcome here to Talk FCB and welcome back to another video here on the channel. We're going to be doing something slightly different today. As you know, Bellerin and Semedo have been highly linked to Barcelona in recent days, both vying for the same position. But which of them should we sign this summer and why? We're going to be comparing both players alongside each other using some stats from throughout their league campaigns this season, and we're going to be seeing who is the best choice for Barcelona in the current campaign and in the current market. If we take a look at Bellerin to start with, he's 1 year younger than Semedo, but he has a higher valuation, I think, in the Premier League playing for Arsenal than Semedo does at Benfica. It's been reported the interest is high in Bellerin, and we have spoken already with the player over a transfer, although he did tweet this afternoon, do not believe everything you read. So read into that what you will, but it has been highly reported in Spain that we're certainly in for Bellerin for around 50 million euros. Semedo is slightly different. A lot of the reports originally came out of Portugal. There hasn't been a lot more news on Semedo in the last few days, but he's reported to be on the market for around 40 to 50 million euros. So it could go as high as Bellerin, but I would expect if we negotiated with Benfica, you may be able to get him for a bit less cheaper than Bellerin himself. You know, Benfica may well be easier to deal with than Arsenal, of course, who we have done business with in the past. And a lot of the business we've done with Arsenal, not that successful either. So what we're going to do is take a look at the stats for each player alongside each other, and we're just going to have a look really at what that brings. You can't judge everything off stats, but you can make some sort of deduction on who will suit Barca better by looking at what they've done throughout the current campaign. You can see here that Semedo did have more assists in the last campaign, and he also played in less games than Bellerin. Although you will note these are from the Portuguese League for Semedo and the Premier League for Bellerin, and some may argue, of course, the Premier League is a more difficult league to play in, but nonetheless, let's have a look. It is noted here that Hector Bellerin, as we know, in the current campaign certainly was for me suspect defensively. He does have some lapses, he's not always in the right position, he does get caught out a lot of the time he does use his pace to sort of make up for that, but a lot of the time he's not quite in the right position, and that would be a problem for us. Of course, sometimes we do leave ourselves exposed on the counter-attack, and although Bellerin's pace would be very, very good for that, he's not that great in defensive positioning and the structure of the back four. So that's not good. You can see here with the stats when we compare them alongside Semedo's that Semedo completes a lot more tackles than Bellerin, and that says a lot. Defensively, Semedo for me is much, much better than Hector Bellerin, which for me is really important, because although at Barcelona a lot of emphasis on the fullback is going forward and in the final third, we do need to be good at defending as well. We've seen Sergio Roberto caught out a few times this season. The same goes for Jordi Alba. Sometimes their defensive capabilities can go unnoticed because you don't think you need them, but in the big games you need to be able to defend. For me, you can see here he's completed more tackles and more interceptions this season, and Semedo for me is the better defender, and he does have the pace of Bellerin as well. This guy is not slow. He's got some serious pace about him, and he's also been dribbled past less, which also speaks for itself. Not an awful lot more than Bellerin, but he has certainly been dribbled past less, which does show again that defensive nature that he's got. He is strong defensively and would be very much an asset to us on that right hand side. We're going to take a look at all different areas of stats from passing to defending and also going forward in the final third. Here we're going to look at the amount of fouls that are committed. Semedo does commit more fouls than Bellerin. He's got slightly left here, Hector Bellerin, than Semedo does. Clearances 1.4, bad control per game that is, and how many times they're dispossessed in a match. And it's interesting really with Hector Bellerin. You can look into it whatever way you like, but for me, defensively, you know, when he's one-on-one, a lot of the times as well, these stats are maybe a little bit misguided, because Arsenal this season, towards the end of the season, played in a back five, and in a back five as a wing-back, you are more protected. You've got three centre-backs there to sort of help you out, and I feel like Hector Bellerin at times, at the end of the season, his stats would have certainly been improved by those three centre-backs helping him out in those wing-back positions. But when he's in a four, which a lot of the time we will play with, by the way, we'll play with a four at the back, Bellerin might get exposed. Semedo this season, though, he's been really consistent, really good. He does commit more fouls, but he's got a good amount of clearances there, slightly more bad control, and he's dispossessed slightly more times than Hector Bellerin, but we'll see in a minute for the stats going forward. The reason for that may well be because he does take a few more risks. He's very good going forward He likes to attack, he likes to get down the right-hand side. He shows a lot of energy going down that right-hand side, and a lot of comparisons with Semedo has been made with Dani Alves. A lot of people think that he replicates the way he plays the game, up and down that right-hand side, very, very quick. He's good on the ball, and the most important thing for Semedo, for me, he develops a very, very good combination with that winger, and you can imagine Lionel Messi and the right midfielder getting a very, very good understanding with Semedo. We look here at Bellerin's stats in terms of the dribbles, key passes, shots and goals. So this is the offensive stats going forward, how good are each player. And you can see here, Semedo has completed more dribbles than Hector Bellerin, and he's completed more passes, key passes that is, so passes in the final third that have led to a chance being created. And it does mean that he's better in the final third. Bellerin this season, like I say, towards the end of the season was playing in that wing-back position, but he's not quite the same player. He gets forward a lot, he gets into the right positions, but when he gets there, it's about decision-making. And I feel at times when Bellerin gets into the final third, there are times where he doesn't quite make the right decision. He'll go past a few players, he'll get into a good position, but then the cross won't be good enough, or the final pass won't quite be there. Bellerin, though, like you saw earlier on, he's completed more assists this season than Hector Bellerin, and that is clearly shown here because he's completed more dribbles. His key passes are way ahead of Bellerin in that department. He completes at least a key pass a game, so every single game he's creating something. Neither of them have that many shots as fullbacks, and both of them have scored one goal during the current campaign as the season has gone by. But certainly for me, although Semedo is better defensively than Bellerin, that certainly doesn't mean that he's not good going forward. He is very, very good going forward. He's got a good amount of pace to back him up in the defensive positions and offensively. He can use that pace to get beyond the defence, to stretch them when it's on the counter-attack, and he's one of those players that when we are really bombing forward and looking to make those quick breaks in games, he could be very, very good down that right-hand side. As, of course, could Bellerin, because he's very, very quick and he does get into good positions. He may be able to learn from the players around him at Barcelona how to make those better decisions in the final third. If we look here at the passing statistics, Bellerin actually averages a few less passes per game, but it is worth noting here that he does complete more of those passes. 84.6% of his passes are completed, and that for me is a very, very good statistic there. He's very, very good on the ball. He's good at completing those passes, very much a Barcelona trait. He doesn't complete many crosses though, that's worth noting here, and again, he doesn't really complete many long passes as well. Now, those long passes are not just hoofs up the field, they're not clearances, they're not long balls. These are passes made over a longer distance, and those are accurate passes that are measured. Bellerin doesn't have that many of them, like he does not have that many crosses, but passes completed, he is certainly on the better side, although Semedo's passes completed may be down a little bit because he does go on to make more passes every game than Hector Bellerin. He completes 49 passes per game, his percentage is just under the 80% mark. He makes more crosses per game, and you can see there over one successful long pass per game for Benfica this season. So he's been pretty good in terms of his passing statistics, pretty good in terms of his defensive statistics, and also pretty good in terms of his offensive statistics as well. Like I say, you can't really judge everything off stats, but I just like to look at them as a sort of comparison between the two players. They play in two different leagues, so it's quite difficult to compare them without stats. You can look at their attributes. They're both very, very quick. They're both very good on the ball. But for me, defensively, Semedo is the better player. Going forward, both of them are very, very effective in the final third because of their pace and getting into the positions. But when it comes down to that final pass, that final ball, I believe that Semedo is the better choice. He makes better decisions in that final third. He's much, much better in terms of getting the ball into the box, linking up with his right winger or the midfielder, and he's much, much better in the decision making in those final third positions where you need to be good as a Barcelona player. You can't get into those positions and be wasteful, because it does get frustrating when you see players giving away the ball in those areas, not making the right choice. You see it sometimes with Jordi Alba, where you get into a great position and nothing quite comes of it. You don't want that to happen as a Barcelona player. And just going off who scored ratings throughout this entire season, who scored a given Hector Bellerin a rating of 6.81 per game, whereas Semedo is highly above that in Liga NOS. He's been given a 7.37 rating, which by all means, that is a pretty good average rating per match. So it's up to you guys. Like I say, you cannot judge the whole game off stats. I don't want to become one of those people who just look at numbers on a screen and then judge a player. To really understand the games of these two, you've got to watch them, you've got to look at their different performances, you've got to look at the way they adapt in games, the position positions that they take up, the way they use the attributes they've been blessed with. For me, like I say, I think a lot of us are of the opinion that Semedo would be the better choice this summer. He may well come for a cheaper price. Bellerin will be expensive, but he does have, of course, a history of being a Barcelona player. He does understand the philosophy. He is good on the ball. So let me know your thoughts down below, guys, especially now we've looked at them both alongside each other. We looked at their stats. We looked at the way their season has gone. Semedo, for me, certainly has had the better season. He'll be coming in a confident mood. Bellerin, I think this season was below his current standard. He's not had a good season at all, which it really questions why we're going to pay a lot of money to get him now when he's coming off the back of a rather poor season with Arsenal. So leave your thoughts down below, guys, on the two. In your opinion, who do you think we should sign? Let me know down below. I'll be very, very interested to hear your thoughts as always. I'll see you very, very soon. But until then, as always, Vasca el Barça.